From locker room to lingerie. Great practice, guys. If we keep working hard, we have a real shot at the conference title, Coach Jones addressed the 30 or so high school boys gathered around him. The boys were sweaty and tired, but the coach's praise momentarily raised their spirits. Smith, nice passing out there. Keep up the good work. 15-year-old Billy Smith grinned cockily. Sure, coach. After all, I am the greatest. The other boys moaned at Billy's arrogance. Coach Jones dismissed the players, thinking to himself that it was going to be a long season with Billy guiding the team. The next day, the halls of Susan B. Anthony High School teemed with fresh young faces, eagerly anticipating the school year to come. Billy strode confidently down the hall to his next class. This was Billy's second year of high school, and he planned to make the most of his year. After all, Billy had already won the starting quarterback spot, despite his diminutive size. Of course, Billy conveniently forgot that between graduation and transfers, Billy was literally the only quarterback left. With the arrogance Billy displayed, however, one would think that Billy had beaten out Joe Montana for the job. Billy had very few friends left on the team. But what did he care? He got the starter's job, didn't he? But Billy wasn't thinking about football at the moment. He was thinking about Cindy Jackson, a cheerleader and the prettiest girl in school. Despite Billy's best efforts, she had never given him the time of day. In fact, she had always acted downright snotty toward Billy, particularly after she overheard him telling his buddies what a stuck-up Miss Priss she was. But there was no denying her beauty: long blonde hair, ample hips and bust, piercing blue eyes. Billy couldn't account for her dramatic change in attitude toward him, but he didn't care. He figured that as starting quarterback, he deserved to have the prettiest girl in school as his girlfriend. Yes, Billy was on top of the world. Between classes, Billy saw Cindy at her locker. Anxious to encourage his budding relationship with her, he decided to say hello. As he got closer, Billy noticed that the rest of Cindy's crowd was hanging around. Like Cindy, Billy had always considered this collection of girls as bitchy and stuck-up and was generally intimidated by their haughtiness and good looks. Nonetheless, Billy grinned with anticipation as Cindy flashed a coy smile in his direction. Leaning cockily on the locker next to hers, Billy bragged about how many touchdown passes he was going to throw that year and how lucky Cindy was that Billy was available. Finally the bell rang, and as Billy was getting ready to leave, Cindy did something that stopped him dead in his tracks. She was motioning for him to kiss her. Smugly, Billy thought that Cindy had finally come to her senses. Billy hesitated only for a second as he shyly closed his eyes, leaned down and pressed his lips to hers. Billy expected fireworks, but what happened next was totally unanticipated. Billy! Stop it! Get off of me! What in the world do you think you're doing? Cindy flailed at him with her arms. What's the matter? Billy tried to fend off Cindy's blows, which were coming fast and furious. Finally, Cindy ran down the hall crying, attracting the attention of the assembled students as she ran. Facing the angry glares of Cindy's friends, Billy could only respond quietly, "I thought she wanted me to kiss her." Billy was left muttering to himself as Cindy's companions quickly retreated after her. Billy made his way to his next class as if in a trance. He felt terrible. He was sure that Cindy had wanted him to kiss her. But by her reaction, it was clear that she hadn't. Billy was mortified and scared. Billy was so lost in his own thoughts that he didn't see the messenger hand a note to his annoyed homeroom teacher. Billy, Ms. Walker wants to see you in her office immediately." Billy slowly made his way to the door as his classmates whispered furiously. Billy trudged to Nadine Walker's office, his mind racing. Ms. Walker was the school's psychologist and counselor. Billy had instinctively disliked the woman. She seemed cold and aloof, and rumor had it that she didn't like boys very much. Finally, he stood at Ms. Walker's closed door. Steeling himself, he knocked on her door. "Come in," came from behind the door. As he entered, he heard Ms. Walker say softly, "Thank you, Cindy. I'll be in touch." Cindy made her way to the door quickly, but not before giving Billy a self-satisfied smirk. Billy was momentarily taken aback. "Sit down, Billy. You're in serious trouble." Billy started to speak, but Ms. Walker silenced him with a wave of her hand. "Shut up and listen. I know exactly what happened. I've talked with all the witnesses. You sexually assaulted Cindy." Billy couldn't believe his ears. Sexual assault? That was crazy. There's no way, Ms. Walker. Didn't I tell you to shut up? If you interrupt me one more time, I'm calling the police and you can talk with them. Ms. Walker slammed her hand against the desk for emphasis. Billy cowered back in his chair, frightened by Ms. Walker's anger and the mention of the police. Billy's head was spinning. "That's better. Now you better listen up. I have statements from Cindy and the other girls who saw the attack. All of them say that Cindy did nothing to encourage you, simply forcing yourself on her, ignoring her pleas to stop. You boys think that you can do whatever you want, don't you? Well, it makes me sick to see a sweet young girl like Cindy abused like that." Panic-stricken, Billy tried to recall the incident. Thinking about it, he could see that bystanders might easily have misinterpreted the situation if they didn't see Cindy come on to him. Worse, Billy knew that Cindy's friends would back her up completely. Billy's heart raced and he felt sick to his stomach. "I should have called the police by now. With the state's new sentencing guidelines, they'd put you away for years. You'd learn all about sexual assault in jail. I'm sure you'd make lots of friends," she spat. Despite her angry demeanor, Ms. Walker smiled inwardly. She could see the fear in Billy's eyes, and he was starting to cry. Boys on the threshold of manhood were just right, she thought, full of false machismo, but all too ready to retreat the safety of childish tears. After letting Billy cry for a while, she continued, "Well, Billy. What about it? Should I call the police?" "Please, Ms. Walker. Don't call the police. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Please." "Well, Billy, I've been looking over your file and it looks like you've never been in trouble before. I also see that you live alone with your mother and sister, is that right?" "Yes, ma'am," Billy sniffled. "My parents are divorced. My dad works in Europe." Ms. Walker pretended to make some notes in his file. She knew a lot more about Billy. His mother had come in to see her the year before. Ms. Smith had explained that she was at her wit's end, trying to make her son behave. Ms. Smith told her that since the divorce, Billy had made her and her 13-year-old daughter's life miserable. Not only was his behavior bad, his attitude toward females was particularly disturbing. Billy had apparently adopted his father's political viewpoint that women belonged in the home, and that their only goal in life should be to have babies and please their men. According to Ms. Smith, Billy constantly belittled his sister, telling her that she was nothing but a pathetic girl, inferior to him and all other males. He had often infuriated her to the point of tears. On a personal note, Ms. Smith had complained bitterly that since the divorce, Billy had run off any man with whom she had tried to start a relationship. Sympathetic to Ms. Smith's plight, Ms. Walker had urged her to be patient with her son, all the while thinking about her own plan for correcting Billy's behavior. Over the summer, Ms. Walker refined her plan, a plan Ms. Walker was about to put into action. Ms. Walker appeared thoughtful. "Listen to me, you little turd. There's only one way for you to avoid incarceration." Ms. Walker paused for effect. "Please, Ms. Walker, I'll do anything." Ms. Walker continued, malice dripping from her words. "Let me explain. My graduate studies dealt with men who engaged in violence against women. I concluded that it stems from a deep-seated envy of females. In fact, the more macho the male, the stronger the repressed feminine persona. To eradicate this, therapy is necessary to bring the feminine persona to the surface. That's the only thing jerks like you understand. But in your case, I think jail is the answer. No. I mean, please let me try this therapy. Please, Ms. Walker. Ms. Walker appeared to consider Billy's plea. In reality, she had fully expected Billy's reaction. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. My, how I love to hear a boy beg. All right, Billy. I'll work with you. Therapy it is. Thank you, Ms. Walker, Billy replied eagerly, relief audible in his voice. His tears began to subside. Not so fast, tough guy. You have to do everything I say, and I mean everything. Any screw-ups and you can start packing for jail. Understood. Ms. Walker glared at her hapless victim. Yes, ma'am. I'll do whatever you say. Billy breathed a huge sigh of relief. Good. From now on, you'll meet me here in my office every Friday after school for therapy. Report here after your last class. And Billy, don't be late. Sure, Ms. Walker, and thanks. A greatly relieved young man fled back to class, leaving a grinning Ms. Walker recounting the day's events. That was too easy. What a sniveling little brat. All males were like that, she thought bitterly. So easily manipulated. Cindy, Ms. Walker's young protégé, had told her it would be a cinch, but even Ms. Walker had not expected things to be this easy. With a smirk, Ms. Walker started planning for Friday's session. During the rest of the week, Billy thought about his plight. He shuddered at how close he had come to being arrested. He had heard horror stories about prison. His only option was this therapy of Ms. Walker's. He didn't understand exactly what she was talking about, but it didn't make any difference. If he had to go through some goofy therapy to avoid jail, he would do so gladly. After his last class on Friday, an anxious Billy made his way to Ms. Walker's office. Nervously, Billy sat in the chair indicated by Ms. Walker. He had never had any kind of psychotherapy before. Billy wondered idly if Ms. Walker would make him lie down on a couch. Well, Billy, I've got to admit that I'm a little disappointed. I hoped you wouldn't show so I could call the police. Oh well. I guess we better get started. Now, Billy, let me tell you a little more about this therapy I've developed. I've determined through years of research that the most effective way of taming the male pig is to inculcate feminine traits in the patient, to let the patient's true nature emerge. Billy nodded his head to give the appearance that he understood. I call it sissy therapy. Ms. Walker turned with a flourish toward Billy. Billy wore a look of puzzlement and confusion as she continued. During our little sessions, Billy, we're going to be exploring what it means to be a sissy. I'm also going to be giving you assignments to be completed during the week. The assignments are carefully designed to suppress your male psyche while allowing your true essence, your feminine side, to emerge. Understood? Not wanting to appear stupid, Billy eagerly shook his head yes. In reality, he had no clue what she was talking about. Sissy therapy. He certainly was no sissy. Billy began to get a bad feeling and shifted uneasily in his seat. You should know that if you fail to carry out any assignment, I will happily turn you in and testify against you. Do I make myself clear? As she spoke, she took Billy's chin in her hand and roughly forced his eyes to meet hers. Yes, ma'am, Billy responded quickly, shocked at the unexpected physical contact. This woman was nuts. Good. Now let's begin with your first assignment. Billy. What do sissies wear under their clothes? Billy shrugged stupidly. Ms. Walker continued impatiently. Well, sissies want to be as girlish as possible, right? I guess so, Billy muttered. How was he supposed to know about sissies? And what do girls wear? Billy's mouth turned dry as he responded, pea panties, I guess. Very good, Billy. Of course, pretty panties with lots of frilly lace and sweet little bows. So that's what you should wear, right? Ms. Walker grinned evilly, anticipating the reaction her words would have. Billy stared at the woman, wide-eyed. No way, Ms. Walker, if you're suggesting what I think you are, there's no way. I'm not wearing any stupid panties. Forget it. I'm no stinkin' a sissy. Billy, Billy. I thought we discussed this. You do everything I say, or I call the police. Ms. Walker picked up the phone and started dialing. Billy leaped from his seat. No, Ms. Walker. I am sorry. I won't do that again. Please, give me another chance. Please. Pausing, Ms. Walker turned to Billy and intoned coldly, that was your last chance, you won't get any more. Looking at the hatred in her eyes, Billy knew she was speaking the truth. Brightening, Ms. Walker started again. So, Billy. What do little sissies like you wear? Pretty panties, Ms. Walker. Billy felt ridiculous just saying the words. He could feel his face redden in embarrassment. Good. I'm glad we got that cleared up. Now your assignment for the week is to wear frilly panties every day. Ms. Walker paused to let the weight of her words descend on Billy. But not just any panties. I want you to borrow them from your mommy. Billy gasped. Ms. Walker continued, her amusement evident in her voice. I think it's important in sissy therapy to allow the patient to develop a closer bond with his mother. In fact, it's essential if the sissy is ever to break the chain of violence. Besides, I bet she has oodles of lovely panties. Ms. Walker saw that Billy was dying to tell her to go to hell, but couldn't. She had him trapped. A huge smile appeared on her face. And Billy, don't try to take them without her knowing, that's not polite. Trust me, I'll know if you don't ask her. You'll report here before class each morning so that I can check to see that you completed your assignment. Ms. Walker then let him go, but not before teaching him how to do a rudimentary curtsy and demanding that perform one when entering or leaving her presence. It's part of your therapy, she explained mockingly. Billy slowly made his way home. He was in complete shock. What had he gotten himself into? Panties. He had seen the silly, horrible, lacy underwear his sister and mother wore, always leaving him thankful for his boxers. Having to wear girls' panties was terrible enough, but what was he going to tell his mother? Since the divorce, Billy and his mom hadn't been on the best of terms. She was always taking his sister's side in the almost daily squabbles between them. After his mother had caught him selling pictures of his sister in her underwear to his friends, she had barely spoken to him. His sister. That little bitch. He couldn't let Rachel find out or his life would be over.